Hey everybody, I'm here. I'm gonna try to keep it straight today, not get too silly and strange. Just want to tell you important stuff you need to know about clay. So there's some important questions that have maybe been rolling around in your mind, and I'm gonna maybe get to some of them today and some little tips that should help you out. So one thing you may be wondering is, what do I do with my work after I'm finished with it and I've taken pictures, put them in the online portfolio, and turn them in? Well, I'll tell you, it depends on how you feel about it. If it's something that you made that you hope you can keep, you hope that we can eventually add some sort of color to it, and you want to be able to keep erasers in it because you have nowhere to put your erasers right now. So if it's something that you want to hang on to, then you're going to want to put it somewhere safe. Now, clay is extremely fragile when it is fully dry. When it's bone dry like this, when it's really thin, it is super easy to break. Now, one thing I need to do is break maybe a myth that somehow you developed in your head about that this is glue. It acts like glue, but it is only clay. And it only works when you have clay that is already still wet. It all has to do with how clay is shrinking as it dries and all those different molecules that are in there. And as it dries, they pull together and it gets smaller. Your clay is actually shrinking. By the time it's done, it can shrink about 10%. So if you have something that's this big, it could literally shrink 10% by the time it's all done. And so it's doing that as it dries. It does it when we heat it up to its highest temperature. It gets tighter and tighter, which means those little pores, those little openings between the molecules are now closed. And so when we involve slip to clay that's already dried, it has nothing to grab onto. And so people that have something with their clay, let's say they're working along and somehow they like break it. They're like, oh, well, I'm just going to take some slip and put it on there because that should work like glue. Well, it doesn't work. If I try to take slip and put it onto my clay that's already dry, and then even if I tried scoring it, and I did the same thing with another piece, I put some slip on there and I put them on there, again, it is going to appear that it is on here. But when it dries, it just has nothing to grab onto. That slip here will start to dry up and will close, and it has nothing to grab onto. It might stand there for just a tiny bit, but it'll be easy to pop it off. So if you break something when it is fully dry, it's done. So if you have something that has not broken and you do want to save this piece, you can't just keep it like it is. You're not going to want to keep it around your house forever like that. What you're going to want to do is you're going to want to put it somewhere safe until you can bring it to the school and we can fire it. Until you fire the clay, as you found out in your slip exercise, it can turn back into mush. If I put some water in here, I'm going to take a drink out of it. In an hour from now, I got to pick it up and it's going to be just a bunch of mush in my hands. So what I want to do is put it aside safely, and we will be in touch with you about when we can do drop-offs for different clay projects to come in. Also, in the future, you'll need to get more clay, so we'll be arranging some of that as time goes along. So, I'm all finished. I'm going to carefully go hide it somewhere. Okay, don't tell anyone it's up there. Well, look what I found. I just found this and it was up there. Anyway, if you have something that you really don't care for, you say, you know, I like it, I don't really need it, or I don't like it at all, etc., etc. Don't throw it away. Instead, you're going to recycle it. And so to recycle it, it's the same idea as when you made your slip. It's kind of fun to break it, but the problem about just breaking it in the house is it gets everywhere. If you really want to break it, you might want to do it outside or in a bag. So I can put it in a bag if I want to, and then I don't have an interior mess on my hands. In some cases, it's so thin it can just snap easily. Because this particular pinch pot was kind of on the thicker side, it's really hard for me to break. But you can essentially smash your clay into little bits, and now it's just kind of fun because I have a former project there. And so I need to get some water involved with this. Because this clay is completely dried out, it doesn't do me a lot of good to add just a little bit of water and bring it back to life. I'm probably going to want a little bit more water. So I just poured some of that water out of here so that it's not completely going to turn into a mushy slip, but it's going to be some usable clay pretty soon. So now you see I'm working with a different kind of storage. And so I want to talk about that real quick. As you add your tote and you have all these things in there, some of you are realizing, yeah, it seemed like this is a big thing, and then quickly you're finding out, I don't have a lot of space for everything. You might even store some of your things in other places. If you say, we're not using this for a while, I'm going to put this somewhere and not forget where it is. And you can do that with any of these things. You can say, I'm not going to keep everything in here if you want to use your tote for storing some of your clay and clay projects. So it's up to you, of course. You put things in different places. Later on, you say, where did I put that again? And all of a sudden, you have a problem. But you could also add to your collection of different things to put clay in. So you can always put clay in bags like this. I know we use these a lot in the classroom. It's always great to reuse things that could have just been trash. We have plastic bags so you can see through. It's nice so you can see how the clay is looking. So I'd be able to know, come at it the next day and say, you know what, still looks really dry. I'm going to add a little bit more water to it and see if I can start softening even more. You can do the same thing with larger bags like that. You might even find some reusable plastics out there. There might be like little containers that you don't need anymore. Sometimes packaging, like I get this for like dishwasher detergent, and it's like it comes with this great little top on there and everything. It's a great small tote. And so you might find as you are going through products in your home and using them up instead of just throwing it out and recycling it, you have the option of reusing. There's also small, someone left this behind here. Clearly it was $1. They got it somewhere that looks like what they have at like Dollar General, their dollar logo. Otherwise, they have other kinds of small containers, totes that you can find at different stores. And they don't have to be a lot of money. It just depends on how big you want it. But I know I've seen some at Dollar Tree. They definitely have them at Walmart, Target, places like that. Also, you may want to get some other things that you find helpful. Bottles like this can be really helpful. As you've been working with clay and sometimes you want a little bit of water, you can always have a couple on, kind of dip in your finger and add water. But sometimes it's really nice to have a spray bottle. So again, you can find these for cheap. They have large ones kind of like this. I know I've gotten some like that at Dollar Tree. These ones came from Target. I thought they were $1. They might have been around there. So they do have them. And so these are things you can add to your collection to make things a little bit easier for you. Same thing with like your slip. You have a little container. If you have a different container you'd rather use because you want to make more of it at once, or maybe you break this or something like that. So you can modify what you have. We wanted to make sure you all could get started. But certainly, as you go along, you might find you would benefit from having an extra thing to keep your stuff safe and keep your stuff from drying out. If you have pieces that you wish were a little bit more workable, like it's gotten a little bit too dry, one thing you can do is add a little bit of water and a little bit of time. So if I were to take some water, whether you dip it in a cup or just kind of apply it on like this, notice I'm not trying to put it under there and soak it. You can add a little bit like that, or you could add a little spray of water, and then bag it up. Come back the next day, that water that was on the outside is not going to seep to the inside and make the clay a little bit more workable. Now, moderation is key. You do too much water, you're done for. Also, if your clay is completely dried out to the bone dry stage and you add a lot of water to it, you're going to get a lot of cracking, a lot of breaking. So it's good if you're trying to break your clay down so that it goes from really dry clay to usable clay, but to go a little bit softer, it's not going to work that well. So if I took a piece that was completely dry, added some water to soften it up, it's probably going to have some issues. Whenever you're dealing with water, keep in mind adding a little bit and letting it sit can be a good thing. This is a little bit dry, wish it was a little softer for tomorrow. Add a little bit of water on there, put it back in the bag, leave it, check on it later. Well, it's been my pleasure to share some of these tips with you, and I hope that it's helpful, and I hope that you get to enjoy this experience of working with clay. All right, so long. I got to get back to I'm looking for my keys. I think I dropped them into this thing of clay. So anyway, have a good day. Man, it's like the third time this week.